family called me the disappointment at a reunion, so I showed them my bank deposit. My family invited me to a reunion just so they could brag about my cousin Luke getting into Harvard. By the time I arrived, everyone was already talking about him non-stop. I'm 26. I dropped out of college in my second year, and I work construction. They treat that as my whole story. I rent a tiny studio over Mrs. Nguyen's Chinese restaurant, and the place always smells like grease. Luke is the golden kid. Full scholarship, honors program, pre-med, the whole thing. He'd been getting straight A's since forever, and I was always the one getting lectures. The reunion was at Uncle Steve's house in the suburbs. I rolled up in my beat-up Ford pickup and felt out of place before I even got out. Kids were running around with water balloons. Music was loud. Burgers were sizzling. Aunt Janet spotted me and lifted her wine glass. "There's Luke's future," she announced. "Harvard Medical School, here we come." People laughed and clapped, and Luke just stood there smiling and soaking it up. My mom pulled me toward the cooler and tried to keep it friendly. "Luke's been telling us about orientation week," she said. "Sounds amazing, right?" I nodded and opened a beer. My boots were still dirty from work, and I could feel eyes drifting down to them and back up to my face. Luke walked over, still holding court, and said, "So what are you doing these days?" Before I could answer, Aunt Janet jumped in. "He works with his hands," she said, smiling too hard. "Not everyone is meant for school." Luke gave a polite laugh, and I could tell he was relieved it wasn't him being questioned. I said, "I'm working," and kept my voice flat. Aunt Janet leaned in again, perfume and wine on her breath. "Luke's going to be a doctor," she said. "A real doctor. Finally, someone successful in this family." She said it and made the rest of us sound small. Uncle Steve added, "Not everyone can be book smart." He glanced at me and finished, "Some people are more hands-on." Luke gave me a quick little shrug, basically saying, "Sorry." Grandma Helen made a small sound in her throat and said, "Some people just aren't academic," almost under her breath. My mom touched my arm, light and quick, as a warning. My mom leaned closer and whispered, "Please, not today." I nodded, but my jaw was tight. Luke was watching me over his cup, still smiling. I tried to stay quiet. I walked to the side of the deck and stared out at the yard, pretending I cared about the water balloons. Behind me, I heard Aunt Janet say, "Imagine dropping out and still acting proud." Someone answered, "At least Luke's going to bring the family name up." My face got hot, but I kept my beer in my hand and counted to 10. Then Grandma Helen looked right at me from her lawn chair and said it again, clear and slow. "Some people just aren't academic." The whole yard went quiet. I felt that old pressure to smile, grab another beer, and vanish. My mom's mouth tightened. Aunt Janet looked excited, waiting for me to get put back in my place. Luke's grin got a little bigger. I didn't yell, I didn't curse. I set my beer down, pulled out my phone, and opened my banking app. "You're right, Grandma," I said. "I'm not academic at all." I turned the screen so they could see my balance and last month's deposit. For a second, nobody understood what they were looking at. Then Luke stepped closer, squinted, and his face drained of color. "That's not real," he said, and his voice sounded small. Uncle Steve stopped moving at the grill. Aunt Janet froze with her glass halfway up. Even the kids slowed down when the mood shifted. "Union electrician," I said. "I do high-voltage industrial work at power plants and factories, plus big backup systems." I pointed at the deposit line. "I clear about $15,000 a month, sometimes more if there's overtime." "15?" Aunt Janet said, and she sounded offended. Luke kept blinking, trying to make the number disappear. Grandma Helen stared at my phone for 1 second, then looked down at her hands. My mom stared at my phone, stunned. Nobody had a quick joke now. You could hear the grill and a dog barking down the street. Luke finally said, "But Harvard?" as if that settled it. I nodded once. "Harvard's great," I said. "You've got years ahead of you. Undergrad, med school, residency." I kept my voice calm. "I'm happy for you. I'm just saying I'm doing fine too." I picked up my beer and took the last sip. "Anyway, I've got to get up early," I said. Someone asked where I was going, but it came out weak. "Hospital job," I answered. "We're installing backup generators tomorrow." I set the bottle down, grabbed my keys, and walked off the deck. No one stopped me. No one clapped. I crossed that perfect lawn, got in my truck, and started it. As I backed out, Luke was still standing there.